Ever wanted to learn more about your favorite video game characters? Well, now you can with our video game character database. Here we give you the beatdown on the Double Dragon brothers, Billy and Jimmy Lee.
You shall be a great dragon, Billy Lee. You shall live by the code of the dragon. You shall be a champion of the good, a protector of the weak and innocent. You shall become a dragon master.
Billy began his kung fu training at age 12 and became a kung fu Soseiken master at 20. He has a twin brother, Jimmy Lee. Together they learn to fight on the cold, tough streets of the city. Their expert knowledge of the martial arts combined with their street smarts has made them both formidable fighting machines. But now Billy is faced with his greatest challenge. His girlfriend, Marion, has been kidnapped by the Black Warriors, the savage street gang of the mysterious Shadow Boss. Using whatever weapons come to hand, knives, whips, bats, rocks, oil drums, even dynamite, Billy must pursue the gang through the slums, factories, and wooden outskirts of the city to reach the hideout for his final confrontation with the Shadow Boss, his brother, Jimmy. Billy and Jimmy Lee have been featured in the following adventures.
We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we've searched high and low for those video games that were in development but never got released. And we'll show you a must-have hidden gem for the Atari Jaguar called Aliens vs. Predator. Oh, and get ready to furnish your apartment in Rent Wars for the Atari 5200. All that and more coming up next on Video Game Trader TV.
Double Dragon 2, The Revenge for your Nintendo Entertainment System. The best action game ever from Acclaim. The Acclaim wireless remote controller for your Nintendo Entertainment System. Gets you mobile in WrestleMania. In Flying Airwolf, its rapid fire means higher scores. Accurate up to 30 feet. The Acclaim official wireless remote controller. The power to move.
Double Dragon 3, the ultimate in NES martial arts action continues with all new weapons, characters, and street fighting moves against the world's most awesome villains. Double Dragon 3 from Acclaim. The action keeps coming.
Introducing a whole new magazine dedicated to classic and orphaned video games. Video Game Trader, Magazine, and Price Guide. With a staff of expert hardcore veteran gamers dedicated to bringing you the best classic gaming has to offer. Each issue is jam-packed with reviews, retrospectives, and more on everything classic gaming. Just got back from the wild and want to know what your classic games are worth? Video Game Trader offers one of the most accurate price guides that you'll find anywhere. Not to mention great advertisement opportunities for you and your company. Don't miss an issue of the only bi-monthly classic video game magazine and price guide available. Subscribe today and get 6 bi-monthly issues for only $24.95. Video Game Trader Magazine, keeping classic and orphaned video games alive.
Welcome back to Video Game Trader TV. I'm your host, Jim Combs.
And I'm Rachel Weinstein. So have you ever been so excited for a video game that you'd seen in a magazine or heard an announcement for, only to find out that the game had been canceled? Oh, we feel your pain. So in our feature segment, we want to dedicate some time to those unreleased video games.
Yeah, I was bummed when Hellraiser got canceled for the Sega Genesis.
Oh, that was a bad day.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Hellraiser was originally announced for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1990 when Dan Lawton, co-founder of Color Dreams, seen the Hellraiser movie and was a big fan, so he decided to buy the movie rights for $35,000 to $50,000. Mr. Lawton hired an engineer, Ron Risley, to design his concept, the Super Cartridge, which would allow for more powerhouse when designing games. According to Mr. Lawton, the gameplay to Hellraiser was a 45-degree down-angle view with a maze of stone, walls, and pits. At the time, there was a shortage of video games, and retailers were hesitant to carry unlicensed video games in fear that name-brand companies like Nintendo would not send them full orders. So Color Dreams knew that retailers would not carry their products, so they decided to stop production on Hellraiser. At the time, Hellraiser would have been the largest game on an NES cartridge. Hellraiser was also announced for the Sega Genesis and Atari Lynx.
Jesus wept.
Rent a Hero number 1, developed by Sega AM3 and published by AIA for the Xbox, was due to hit store shelves in 2003. The game combined RPG elements such as leveling up and roaming around town with Final Fight type brawling. The series dates as far back as 1991 when the first entry was released on the Sega Mega Drive. A 3D remake of the 1991 hit was released for the Sega Dreamcast in Japan in 2001. Which leads us to the Xbox version, which is a slightly modified port of the Dreamcast version featuring new online gameplay and an English translation. This would have been the first title in the series to make it stateside. The game was close to hitting store shelves and was even reviewed by GamePro in February of 2003 and received a great review. Unfortunately, due to distribution issues, the game was never released in the US. It's too bad this game wasn't released since the Xbox had so few RPG titles. However, the game in its entirety has shown up on torrent websites. Originally announced for the Sega Genesis, then pushed to the Sega 32X, and finally landing its home on the Sega Saturn, Sonic X-treme was to be the first true 3D Sonic game for the Sega Saturn, due to hit December of 1996. Sonic X-treme used the same game engine as Nights into Dreams, and the levels were designed in a tube-like fashion which Sonic could fully run around in and change the camera angles as he made certain turns and twists. Eventually, the development team was running short on manpower, and one of the designers, Chris Coffin, was left with most of the project in his hands since he was leading the technology and created the engine. Executives wanted the game out by the end of the year for the holiday. However, when Coffin came down with pneumonia, Sonic X-treme fell behind further and did not meet the holiday '96 deadline. The game was cancelled and replaced with Sonic 3D Blast, followed by Sonic Jam and Sonic Racing. Star Fox 2 is going to be the direct sequel to Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, with your battle raging on against Andross, who seeks to conquer the Lylat system. Star Fox 2 also introduced 2 new characters, Faye, who is a white poodle and childhood friend of Fox McCloud, and Miyu, who is a tomboy lynx. The Japanese version of Star Fox 2 was completely finished and the English versions were in development. Neither the Japanese nor the American version were ever released, which is very odd since Star Fox sold extremely well in both markets. According to the lead programmer, Dylan Cuthbert, the reason for Star Fox 2's cancellation was because Shigeru Miyamoto-san was gearing up for the Nintendo 64 launch. He wanted to cut ties between the 3D games on the Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64. So Nintendo decided to bring the next 3D Star Fox title to the Nintendo 64 with the highly acclaimed Star Fox 64. With so many unreleased video games to cover, check out these following clips for more unreleased video games.
5. Now, to tell you the truth, I forgot myself in all this excitement. You've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?